Congressman representing New York's 1st District, active Army ROTC program, deployed to Iraq. A great, great guy. Congressman Lee Zeldin, welcome back to the Mike Gallagher Show. How have you been, sir?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back with you.
Thank you, sir. A lot of people aren't familiar with BDS and what Ilhan Omar has proposed, a resolution that seeks to push back against laws that would ban boycotting Israel. Can you give us your perspective and kind of give people who aren't up to speed on this an overview so we know exactly what's at stake and what she's trying to do?
Absolutely. So BDS stands for Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions. The BDS movement is one globally that seeks to harm the Israeli economy today, that seeks to turn people around the world against Israel. In the name of BDS, many individuals attack Jewish people with blatant anti-Semitism that has nothing to do with any type of legitimate, reasonable criticism of Israel. So where we might learn about anti-Semitism that would exist at the United Nations, what we're starting to hear more of on college campuses coast to coast across our country, whether it's at UC Berkeley, I've heard them from Georgetown, NYU, Columbia, in Michigan, individual students being targeted with blatant anti-Semitism in the name of BDS. The founder of BDS was blatantly anti-Semitic. His quotes show that the people who support BDS have not distanced themselves from Hamas. And as I pointed out yesterday, during my back and forth with Congresswoman Omar in the House Foreign Affairs Committee, just last Friday, a senior leader of Hamas called for the murder of all Jews around the world. Hamas calls jihad an obligation. They use women and children as human shields. They deny humanitarian aid to their own people. They oppress their own people. So this effort to define BDS as a nonviolent movement that is focused on legitimate, reasonable criticism of the Israeli government is divorced from the other 99.5% of the story.
It's divorced from reality. I mean, when the president points out the anti-Semitism of Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, there's a pushback, and yet you hear this, and if you'd have told me 10 years ago we'd have a sitting U.S. Congresswoman who would proclaim that America doesn't live its values. There was a quote from last week or so where she gave an interview where she said that America, America, land of the great, but America doesn't live its values, and then supports this BDS movement, wanting to boycott the Jewish state, wanting to boycott Israel, and Congressman went on to compare, and let's make this very clear, Israel to Nazi Germany.
That's so in an effort to introduce a pro-BDS resolution in the text, as you point out, they draw a moral equivalency between boycotting Israel and boycotting Nazi Germany from 1933 to 1941. That's actually in the words of the text. And it's one thing to accuse someone of anti-Semitism.
Whoop, we lost you. What happened there? Congressman? Don't know what happened to him. That's kind of weird, like our phone line went out. Hang on, let's try to get him back and figure out what happened there. The whole phone system went kaput there. So we'll try to get Congressman Lee Zeldin back on the line and figure out what went wrong there. So 21 minutes before the hour in the ReliefFactor.com studios, live radio. Sometimes things don't click the right. Did you hang up on me or did I hang up on you?
I'll take the blame for that.
I'm going to blame you. I'm going to blame you. I'm going to blame my member of Congress.
Yes, please. I will tell you. Since being in Congress, she has said that if you support Israel, then you're bought off by Jews, and so on. And she's doubled down and tripled down without regret. And she has said that she'll no longer apologize. So when the president references Ilhan Omar's anti-Semitism, this isn't something in a vacuum without any evidence to back it up. It's a long history going back to before she was in. The other thing that I would point out to something else that you said, and it's worth noting that this isn't just about her opposition to Israel or her anti-Semitism or support of BDS. She has blamed U.S. foreign policy for the al-Shabaab attack in Kenya. She's requested leniency for ISIS fighters. She blamed U.S. foreign policy for the struggles of the Venezuelan people while propping up Maduro. And that list goes on as well. I was the first member of Congress to oppose her appointment to the House Foreign Affairs Committee. I don't believe that she should have been appointed to it in the first place. And if I wanted to raise everyone's taxes, Mike, and I went to the House Republican Steering Committee saying, appoint me to the House Ways and Means Committee. I want to raise everyone's taxes. I want to get appointed to it. If I wanted to disband or undercut the military, they're not going to appoint me to the House Armed Services Committee.
Of course not.
We should look at her appointment to the House Foreign Affairs Committee not only as a reflection of her values, but also of the values of the people who elevated and empowered her to that position in the first place.
You know, Congressman, there's a viciousness to this. And as you talk about trying to hurt Israel in the maximum way possible. And if you look at this website, I mean, the BDS website, anybody can see it, bdsmovement.net. The radical goal there seems to be very clear. And again, I want to make sure that we're on the same page here. It's my understanding that the BDS movement has an ultimate goal of wanting to eliminate Israel as a Jewish state. Is that an exaggeration?
That is not an exaggeration. You have some people who support BDS who advocate for a two-state solution that includes a Jewish democratic Israel and a nation of Palestine. The problem is that the leadership of BDS, from the founding of BDS to the most vocal proponents, individuals in America like Linda Sarsour and others like that outside of Congress, they don't define and advocate for that type of an answer to what's going on. There is a desire to free this land from Jewish terrorism. So Rashida Tlaib, when she got criticized about a month ago, when she said thinking about the Holocaust gives her a calming feeling because of the safe haven the Palestinians provided to the Jews.
We played that clip.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what didn't get enough tension because it was obviously important to focus on the substance of what she said. What's really interesting is focusing in also on the question that was asked about Rashida Tlaib's support of a one-state solution that removes Jews from power in Israel, which is something that a lot of the people who lead the BDS movement believe in, and that's concerning to your question.
Well, and what to me ought to be focused on, last night at this rally, the Trump critics engaged in mass hysteria over a 20-second chant of send her back, and this whole controversy about the president's belief that if you don't love this country, you can leave, you can easily leave, just like a lot of Hollywood celebrities promised they would do if he got elected. And yet, where's the media in covering this essential issue? Israel is a critical ally of ours. And, you would think for a sitting congresswoman to advocate for a movement that removes the Jewish state, I mean, that would be a big story. This hasn't been widely covered. I mean, the media is doing the bidding of the far left agenda every day.
And for those who should be talking about it and aren't, there is no journalistic integrity. Anything that you've learned of how to neutrally just deliver the news as to what's going on has been hijacked by individuals who are partisan political operatives who have let their own hate and their producers' hate, their writers' hate, all just overtake sound judgment. And they're not shooting straight, and that's why you're seeing ratings plummet with these other news outlets. Because if you turn on the TV or you turn on the radio and you want the news, even if it's someone who thinks like you, if they're not going to shoot straight, you're going to go somewhere else.
Correct. Well, I'm grateful for your voice on this, and I wanted to make sure that we focused on this took this on head on here on the Mike Gallagher Show. Keep fighting the good fight, Congressman, and I appreciate you taking a few minutes out of your day to join us on behalf of our listeners.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate